very informative and very interesting. I also forgot my time. Luckily, they kept it. Now, we have completed the 4 invited speakers' presentations. It's the question time. We could give perhaps 15 minutes and then summing up another 10 minutes. Any questions to any of the speakers?
I have one question. I heard that when I went to Indonesia, the Bahasa Indonesia is a language which is the official language in Indonesia, but it is from minority. Is it true?
It's an Austronesian language.
No, it is a minority language.
No.
And it is
Bahasa Malaysia, Bahasa Indonesia.
yeah, both are same.
Yeah. It's not a minority language.
Okay, thank you. My dear students, question time. Your boss, your Major General is at the back. Those who ask questions may get more marks. So the presentations were so clear that I have some questions, but please ask. The students must ask first. You can ask in any language. I don't know whether that is permitted. You may be first years, doesn't matter, ask questions. Yes, of course.
Compared to the these world-ranked universities, and we compare the situation in Sri Lanka, where are we actually heading to? Can we see kind of green lights towards the future?
Actually, we are trying to go forward, and there are, of course, difficulties which we are trying to overcome. And I'm sure, as I said, with this, improvement of quality assurance, and all that, we should be able to go higher up. I'm sure the chairperson of the UGC will have better information to tell you. And I, of course, personally am quite positive that we are going in the correct path and we'll be able to achieve.
If I may add, we are definitely moving upwards because we have very active Honorable Minister and equally active Secretary. I could say equally active UGC. So we are doing very well, and we are changing our policies, and we are doing the changes. And we have very active, very eminent academic staff. I'm sure Professor Manik Gunasekara's student will ask a question.
Thank you very much for the very comprehensive thoughts that you all have brought out. My question goes, I have 2 questions. My first question goes to Professor Kusuma Paratna. My first question is, in the education reforms that was brought out in the Free Education Act, there were some education policies brought out as to educate children with the concept of hand, mind, and heart. So, do you think that in the current education reforms, if you look at the education starting from the primary to the university education, do you think that still it is prevalent? And the other question goes to Professor Manik. This is on the languages that you have done, the presentation that you have done. It was very interesting to know, and I also know one fact that some time back, that is at the time of King Dutugamunu's era, Telugu was very active in Sri Lanka, and I just wanted to know, Professor, whether this community, the Tulu community that you referred at that time, are the people who came from that particular era itself? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, hand, mind and heart, this concept is not very old. Anyway, now we are progressing with it. The only thing is now in school education, what we see is still the parent, from the side of the parents, they try to, just spoon feed the students and take them to tuition classes and all that. So the third one, heart, I don't know how much it is connected with hand and the other two. So, of course, the educational policies are being prepared according to that, but I think we have to educate the parents also, especially mothers who are taking their little kids when they are in grade 1, taking them to the tuition class so that the child will pass the scholarship exam and go to a better school. So this minds of the parents also have to be geared to that more than what is happening now.
Yeah, Professor Manik.
Thank you very much for raising this question. I should have mentioned it myself. According to folklore, I repeat, only folklore, there is no scientific evidence, the Telugu speakers of Sri Lanka are really the descendants of a banished queen. That when Devanampiyatissa became a Buddhist, he naturally sought a consort who was also Buddhist. But the existing Telugu-speaking queen and her entourage were banished. That's how the term Ahikuntaka came, that they are wanderers. But I repeat, this is only folklore. The professor of history says there's absolutely no evidence of this. Thank you.
Any further questions? Students are very clever. They have understood everything and no questions at all.
My question to you, madam. You talk about our languages in modern university. I like to ask from you, what do you think about as a new university in Kottala Defense University? How do you think about our situation as a modern university in Sri Lanka? Yes, ma'am.
I'm asking this from the Vice Chancellor. The language of your university is English, or is it bilingual? Only English, okay. Right. So from the point of view of an international standard, I think you're going the correct way. Right? I'll just give you an example from the University of Kelaniya. When the Faculty of Commerce and Management was set up, there were hardly any English speakers amongst the teaching staff. But they said the language of this faculty is going to be English and only English. So everybody, the students and the staff, improved their English together. Right? They initially started giving me the question papers, but I started correcting it and they said the students can't understand your English. So that was really a very smart move. They decided that was going to be the policy and they stuck to it. And now they are on the same level as any other faculty functioning in English. So I think your university is definitely marching in the right direction.
Madam, I'm Junior Officer M.H. Mimran. During your lecture, you spoke about languages split. And I want to know that in Sri Lankan communication, mostly the news channels and of course radio channels, they use that mixture of the languages. How about your point of view on that?
Okay, you're asking us a very difficult question because the whole country is enjoying the FM radio channels. Most of the researchers, particularly a study done at the University of Peradeniya, shows that the language professors are tearing their hair in grief. But you can't stop language change. Language mixing will go on. It has always gone on. And just look at English. English has borrowed from all the languages it has come into contact with. So there's nothing wrong with mixing and borrowing. But for exam purposes, stick to one language. Okay?
My personal view, not the UGC, is different. I, of course, don't like it. Maybe I'm older than Manik. That may be the reason. I think we need to maintain, but of course, our children are different. You know? Yes. Okay, then can I summarize and wind it up in the absence of any other questions?
Excuse
Yes.
me, ma'am. This question goes to Professor Manik, who's also my lecturer. I've had the opportunity and honor of being a student of hers at Kelaniya University. If I may, ma'am, regarding
the introduction of the trilingual policy to universities. What do you think? This is just a question of your opinion. What do you think the undergraduates would feel in terms of attitudes? Because I think attitude is one of the key factors of language learning. So do you think they'll be able to welcome it with open arms and in that terms?
Okay, thank you, Erandi. This is a very good question, especially because I represent a majoritarian university, and I have to tell you the most popular language course at the University of Kelaniya, which is mainly Sinhala Buddhist, is the Tamil program. So that tells you that the undergraduates are more than ready.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so my task, the most difficult task. In the morning we had very successful, if I may spend 1 or 2 minutes, morning we had very successful deliberations, keynote address given by Mr. Alitiratunga, Secretary to His Excellency, and then 6 presenters. Basically what was mentioned is that we in Sri Lanka, we are in a unique situation geographically, and after 30 years of terrorism, thanks to you, thanks to all of you, now we are free, we are all Sri Lankans, and His Excellency the President, through Mahinda Chintaniya, identified 5 hubs. I would say the knowledge hub will create all the other hubs as well. And what was very interesting was, it was presented that the hubs were already there in this country, in ancient Sri Lanka. It was there, it was in a significant manner. Let us get together with the new technology and create these hubs. I personally think that is possible. And Mr. Alitiratunga also said he made a very difficult, it was very difficult for him to summarize, and he said it was more difficult than the advanced level examination. I also say the same. I would say that the most competitive examination in this world is A-level. So with that we have, I would summarize the 4 presentations. The first presentation I have already summarized. So I go to the second one. Dr. Ratnayaka mentioned about the, luckily I wrote because I can't remember even now, the financial distribution. He spoke about the equity and equality. We were sometimes wondering what is equity and equality, but what was basically mentioned was the distribution of financial wealth in this country is different. It used to be Western province, but it is now, it's now changing. It's not because Western province is declining, but other provinces are catching up. He also mentioned that, he also showed many tables illustrating the distribution in different provinces and the growth of the development. Basically, the development, significantly he said development must be for the benefit of the people. Otherwise, it is not development. I would like to know the definition of development. Development is positive development. Because some time back they said even development can be negative, yes, theoretically, but development that we talk is for the benefit of the people. Then Professor Kusuma Karnaratne spoke about my field as well, the university system then and now. She very well explained the development, the history of the university system and the development of university system in Sri Lanka. That also justified to say that University of Colombo is the oldest university, because some time back the Peradeniya was trying to argue with us that they are the oldest, but no, University of Colombo. I being in the university UGC can't afford to say this now. But Sir Ivor Jennings, the first Vice Chancellor, was a lawyer, and in fact he was the main advisor. Then Prime Minister D.S. Senanayake. So nowadays the student says Vice Chancellors are too political, but at that time the first Vice Chancellor was directly involved, was with the Prime Minister. And Prime Minister, whenever he had any problem, legal or otherwise, used to had contacted Saiva Jennings. Right now we have 15 state universities, 17 institutions affiliated to the 15 universities, and 2 Buddhist universities under the Ministry of Higher Education. But we want to start non-state, non-profit universities, and KDU is a very good example. That is why when yesterday I was asked to chair this session, I couldn't say no to KDU, especially to Major General, the Vice Chancellor. Even though I have to be in Colombo at 5 o'clock, I accepted, because we see KDU is developing rapidly and it should be the #1 university in ranking in this country, because it's a defense university. And when the defense university is very strong, the country is very strong. Professor Karnaratna also, certain things I also add to my views also, not what they have presented. Professor Kusuma Karnaratna is a very eminent professor. She mentioned about this Oxbridge model of university system. And then she also mentioned certain significant years, 1963. She mentioned due to a politician, immediately the number of university students being admitted to universities had to be increased, and that is why it went to race course. But she didn't mention the name of the person. I know because she didn't mention, I think I should also not mention. Maybe if you want to know, talk separate. In 1978, the University Act was established in 1978. We still use the University Act with some amendments. The district quota was introduced. I personally don't think district quota, it should be there, but it should be reduced, because now with the university, the tuition system, everybody comes to urban areas. Insufficient infrastructure, definitely yes. The Honorable Minister, the Ministry has now taken up for next year to develop the infrastructure, especially the hostels, because we are talking about globalization, internationalization, and therefore we must have international level cafeteria and hostels. Perhaps we may compete with KDU. KDU is financially all right. I won't say prosperous, but all right, but that is a plus point to the country. She also mentioned about the multi-mode delivery systems, and later on perhaps everything will be digital and everything will be online. I think perhaps there will be virtual universities. We may not like it, but the students may like it. And when children like it, we as parents, we have no alternative but to go along with them. And perhaps virtual universities may come. The first virtual university in this country may also come within the next 5 years. So thank you very much also Professor Karnaratna for that informative presentation. The last presenter, Professor Manik Gunasekara. Quite often we discuss, sometimes we argue, but we go along the same way, because she presented a very informative, very interesting presentation. I also lost my time, but she mentioned about the 3 language families. I'm ashamed to say that was also news for me, the 3 language families. And also she mentioned about 4 classical languages, the linguistic heritage in Sri Lanka. We don't call now majority and minority. They are all languages in the country. And she mentioned about the Sri Lankan gypsies, Aligambe. And we will try to protect this Aligambe. Maybe we will, through the postgraduate committee, we will try to preserve the Aligambe community as well. She also spoke about the subaltern communities, the voiceless people, which have not been given much recognition. And the Adivasis is one example, but very recently Adivasis have got a Pajero, so they are not that, they have not been that neglected, right? So, whereas the Gathri and them, it was very interesting, very informative, because others I already knew, that may be the reason why I particularly like this presentation. And also the trilingual policy in Sri Lanka. That's a very important policy. All 3 languages, Sinhala, Tamil, English as a link language. Then the teaching policies on trilingual. I'm happy to hear that the Tamil program, the Tamil course is the most popular course in Kelaniya. I think it should be in all universities. So basically, I think all 4 presentations were excellent. They are the best people in their own field, disciplines. Dr. Ratnayaka, being a former secretary in so many ministries, now heading the higher education, helping with us also in the new changes. And then Professor Mahalina Arachi, being a vice chancellor, now in agribusiness, ecotourism. That's also, I said, a win-win-win situation where the academics become entrepreneurs as well. So thank you very much for all of you for listening and asking questions. Shall we show our appreciation to the 4 distinguished invited presenters for their excellent presentations. Thank you very much.